Alright, guys, so we have to talk about the UFC Heavyweight Division and where it's going in the future because right now it's not looking good, especially after what we just saw at UFC 310. Massive robbery, gone over Volkov, and that just adds to the log jam at the top. It adds to all the dead weight at the top. And when you look down the rankings, it doesn't get much better. But let's start off with what I think is probably the biggest issue, or at least the biggest immediate issue in the UFC Heavyweight Division right now. Now, the UFC Heavyweight Division is historically meant to be the biggest fights in the UFC. In most combat sports, the heavyweight division is known as the marquee division. This is where you've had guys like Alistair Overeem, Jon Jones, Brock Lesnar, Francis Ngannou, Muhammad Ali, Alexander Usyk, Tyson Fury. Just a lot of the combat sports legends that you're going to think of are going to be heavyweights just because they're so promotable. They usually have exciting fights. But right now, this Jon Jones situation is really bringing down the UFC heavyweight division. Now, this has been talked about a lot. It's been talked about by me, other people, and everybody can see that it's an issue, right? The whole thing with Jon Jones is that he's stopping Tom Aspinall from being the undisputed UFC heavyweight champion while having irrelevant fights like the Stipe fight, even the Gane fight, really. What he should do to fix this situation, what the UFC needs to do to fix this situation, is have Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. Because right now, even if Jon Jones retires and leaves Tom with the belt, the fact that Tom Aspinall never fought Jon Jones, and the fact that the UFC promoted Jon Jones as the greatest of all time so often, it's going to delegitimize Tom Aspinall, even though most of us know that Tom Aspinall would most likely beat Jon Jones and most likely beat him very badly. Just the fact that we have him around, taking up the undisputed belt and refusing to fight his interim champion, is just holding up the whole division, and it's destabilizing what should be one of the biggest stars in all of combat sports in Tom Aspinall. Now let's get into Tom Aspinall himself, because he genuinely has potential to be the biggest star in UFC, maybe the biggest star we've seen since Conor McGregor. Now, that's not necessarily personality-based, although he is a funny guy. He will promote his fights. But it's just, he's a freak athlete. He's probably the highest potential heavyweight athlete we've ever seen in the UFC. He dances around in the octagon. He's the fastest heavyweight we've ever seen. He has insane striking. He gets first-round KOs all the time. He can submit anybody, right? He's well-rounded. He's exciting. He goes out there and gets finishes. And he's not old either. He's 31. Heavyweights fight until they're 40 most of the time. This guy could have 5 to 10 years of dominance over what should be the marquee division in the UFC, right? But instead, let's look. He's 31. He's been fighting for a while now. And the big names that he's fought, Volkov, very well, yeah, he got that. And all of these fights he's won easily. Sergey Pavlovich won that easily. Curtis Blaydes won that easily. And what's really left for him at this point? Jon Jones, but he's not going to get that fight. So let's assume he never gets the Jon Jones fight. What big fights are left for him? And looking back, what are the really big fights that he's already had that have made him a superstar without the interim title, right? Because there really is nobody else in the UFC right now that Tom Aspinall, one, would have a competitive fight with, and two, would add to Tom Aspinall's hype and make his career even bigger. What's next for him right now? Gane, I guess, but Gane just lost to Alexander Volkov. That's not going to be a hyped up match, right? I think everybody, including me, is going to expect Tom Aspinall to go out there and destroy Gane in whatever way he wants, right? So, who is he going to be able to add to his resume going forward? And looking back, He needs that one big name on his resume. If he could get Jon Jones, all of Jon Jones' fans, not his fans, but like all of his hype, right? All of his fame, that would pass down to Jon Jones. And that's the way that combat sports are supposed to work. You have a guy that's a fan favorite, super well known, and when he eventually gets beaten, it's that guy that gains the notoriety from it. But we're going to have a missing link here, just leaving the heavyweight division without those big names at big appeal, right? Because Tom Aspinall never fought Stipe, and it's not his fault, but he never fought Jon Jones. He never fought Francis Ngannou. He never fought a guy like Brock Lesnar. I don't believe that he's the lineal heavyweight champion. I don't believe that there will ever be another lineal heavyweight champion in the UFC, just because of the way that the Stipe Miocic versus Jon Jones thing went down, and it's a real shame. Alright, then we gotta talk about how slow-moving this division is. Even when fighters like Volkov are being active winning fights, eventually something happens and they just get robbed, like we saw against Gane, right? And then guys like Gane, guys like Curtis Blaydes, Jailton Almeida's pretty active, but most of the top heavyweights rarely ever fight, right? They fight maybe once a year, twice a year if we're lucky. Francis Ngannou fought less than once a year. Tom Aspinall, I have a feeling, would love to fight 2 or 3 times a year, and I think he is capable of it, but none of the contenders are doing anything that makes them worthy of a championship fight. And even if they are worthy, they're only willing to fight once every 9 months or so. So what we need in the heavyweight division is a lot of turnover, a lot of movement, and that's just not what we're getting right now. And that just exacerbates the logjam, makes it more of a problem. And then this may be what's actually in the future going to be the most detrimental problem to the health of the UFC heavyweight division, and that's that there is absolutely nobody that is rising up the ranks right now aside from Jailton Almeida and Mick Parkin. Those are literally our 2 only UFC heavyweight prospects. Now, Jailton Almeida has proven that he's at that top level, right? I would be shocked if he never fights for a UFC title. But the problem with Almeida, people just don't like him. People think he's boring. I personally like him a little more than most people, but yeah, he's not Tom Aspinall exciting. He's not Ciryl Gane exciting. He's not even Curtis Blaydes exciting. And the thing is, Curtis Blaydes already beat him. How are you going to build hype for a guy that's no longer undefeated? Plus, he has what's perceived as a boring style, and he's not some big character that's going to cause a lot of drama. And that's our main prospect coming up. And then the other guy we got is Mick Parkin. Now, I like Mick Parkin. He is a undefeated guy and very young for a heavyweight. He's 29. But look at him. He's not Tom Aspinall athlete. He's not a Ciryl Gane athlete. He's not even like a Volkov athlete. He's just another fat heavyweight. And the thing is, if he gets fit, he's not going to be a heavyweight anymore. He's going to be a light heavyweight. So who do we have that's going to come up and fill in the ranks of these guys that are getting older in the heavyweight division? Who's going to come up with a lot of hype and make big fights for Tom Aspinall? I just don't see it. And when we want to talk about solutions, I think the best bet is going to be expensive, but I think what you need to do if you're the UFC, you need to bring in guys from other promotions, right? I think Francis Ngannou is a long shot. I don't think that's going to happen. And plus, he's old himself. That would only be one fight. But you could bring in guys like Malaikin from one. That other guy, Rugrug, that African guy from one. You could try to convert some more kickboxers. Like, it worked out with Alex Pereira. It worked out with Israel Adesanya. Maybe you could get, what's that Dutch guy? The best kickboxer at Glory for a while now. Their heavyweight champion. Trains with Tom Aspinall. And he's a bit older, but he's still pretty close to his prime, and he'd still be smoking a lot of these heavyweights in the striking. I'd say bring him over. Just look everywhere you can for heavyweight potential prospects. I know it's hard because most guys, if they're big and athletic, they're going to go into a different sport. Right, if you're American, you're going to be playing American football. Maybe you're going to be playing rugby outside of America. there's just a lot more athletic prospects open to these huge athletic guys. So I understand that it's hard, but that doesn't change that we're looking at a real drought in terms of the future of the heavyweight division. And I hope this changes, but I don't see much hope going forward. Alright, and then let's talk about something that you can easily fix. And this is the promotion and the matchmaking of the heavyweight division. Now, we already talked about Stipe versus Jon Jones, but I genuinely don't understand why you would detract from your 31-year-old freak athlete champion in Tom Aspinall to try to add to the legacy of a 37-year-old man in Jon Jones, a guy that most people don't like, and a guy that you already know has maybe one, maybe two more fights left in him, maybe 0 fights left in him. Why would you sacrifice Tom Aspinall's future to get 1 or 2 more fights out of Jon Jones, who was never that big of a star, right? He's kind of been forced to be a star by the UFC's promotion machine. Why don't they use that and put that behind Tom Aspinall? And then matchmaking. Why don't we just see fun matchups in the heavyweight division, right? Why are we always seeing these rematches? And I know there's not a lot to go around, but we need to try to move these lower prospects up the ladder, even though there's not many. I don't want to see Gane versus Volkov or versus Blaydes. I don't want to see all of these matchups again. Let's get some fresh matchups, and let's try to make exciting fights in the heavyweight division. And that'll do it for today. Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe if you like, and just have a good day.